Dr. Kim sipped his hot tea as he scrolled through the galactic Reddit forums. After 12 hours of analyzing data from his last field expedition, he needed a break. His small office aboard the research station, Harmony, was quiet except for the soft hum of the life support systems. The xenanthropologist paused when he saw a post with an unusual title. "Can you satisfy me first? No one has ever touched me. Alien woman's confession." Normally, he would have scrolled past such clickbait, but the tag Solari question caught his attention. The Solari were notoriously private. Their crystalline bodies processed energy through light, and they communicated with complex patterns of illumination. Human researchers had struggled for years to establish meaningful contact. Dr. Kim clicked on the post and began to read. "Greetings, beings of flesh. I am Nera of the Fourth Light Cluster. I have studied humans from afar and am puzzled by your need for physical contact. My kind has never known touch as you understand it. Our bodies would shatter if we attempted your handshakes or hugs. Yet you seem to require this touching to remain mentally well. Can someone explain this mystery? What is touch, really? Why does your species need it so desperately? No one has ever touched me. Is my existence therefore incomplete?" Dr. Kim sat up straighter. Despite the provocative title, this was a legitimate scientific inquiry. The translation into human language had created unfortunate connotations, but the underlying question was profound. He checked the poster's verification data. This was indeed a real Solari, broadcasting from one of their orbital habitats near Alpha Centauri. The system confirmed Nera held the equivalent of a research position in comparative biology. "Park, come look at this," Dr. Kim called to his assistant. Dr. Park walked over, her eyes widening as she read the post. "The title is unfortunate, but this could be groundbreaking. The Solari almost never reach out directly." "I know. I'm going to respond." Dr. Kim's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "How do you explain touch to a being who has never experienced it and physically cannot?" He began typing carefully, aware that the translation systems would convert his words into light patterns for Nera. "Greetings, Nera of the Fourth Light Cluster. I am Dr. Kim, xenanthropologist specializing in cross-species communication from Earth. Your question is fascinating and important. Touch for humans is both simple and complex. At its most basic, it provides data, texture, temperature, pressure. But it also creates biochemical responses in our bodies, releasing hormones that reduce stress and create feelings of trust and well-being. Humans who lack touch often develop a condition we call skin hunger. It can lead to depression and immune system problems. But your question makes me wonder, how do Solari create bonds without touch? What sensory experiences bind your communities together? Perhaps we aren't as different as it seems, just using different pathways to similar needs." He reviewed his message carefully before hitting send. The system indicated the message had been received and was being processed by Nera's translation interface. While waiting, Dr. Kim searched the database for all available information on Solari biology and culture. The files were disappointingly thin. Humans had established diplomatic relations with the crystalline beings 15 years ago, but meaningful cultural exchange had been minimal. The Solari preferred isolation, living in specially designed habitats filled with carefully calibrated light. Their bodies contained structures similar to Earth's quartz crystals, with complex internal latticeworks that processed light into energy and information. They experienced color in ways humans could barely comprehend, seeing wavelengths that extended far beyond the human visual spectrum. A notification chimed. Nara had responded. "Dr. Kim, your reply brings clarity. We Solari bond through synchronized light emissions, what you might call resonance sharing. When our light patterns align with others, we experience deep connection. Perhaps this creates similar biochemical responses to your touch. Your concept of skin hunger has a parallel we call shadow loneliness, when a Solari goes too long without light exchange from others. May I ask more questions? How do different types of touch create different responses? Is touch between family members different from touch between strangers or mates? The human emphasis on physical contact has long puzzled our researchers. Dr. Kim smiled as he read. This was no ordinary online exchange. This was first contact of a meaningful kind with one of the most reclusive species in known space. Dr. Park, cancel my meetings tomorrow. I think we've just found a breakthrough in Solari relations. Already on it, she replied, equally excited. The research committee will want to know about this. As Dr. Kim crafted his next response, he felt a familiar thrill, the same feeling that had drawn him to xenoanthropology decades ago. Here was a chance to build a bridge between fundamentally different forms of life, to find common ground where none seemed possible. Sometimes, he said to himself as he typed, the greatest discoveries come from the simplest questions. In the days that followed, Dr. Kim would learn that Nera was considered somewhat unconventional among her own kind, a Solari who specialized in understanding alien species, much as he did. Their conversation, beginning with that single curious post, would open doors that diplomats and politicians had been unable to unlock for years. But for now, in his quiet office aboard the Harmony, Dr. Kim simply felt grateful for the reminder that across the vast gulfs of space, different minds still wondered about each other. 3 weeks into their correspondence, Dr. Kim found himself checking for Nera's messages first thing each morning. What had begun as a chance encounter on galactic Reddit had evolved into a deep scientific exchange that had both researchers excited. Another message from your crystal friend? Asked Hannah, setting down a cup of coffee on Dr. Kim's desk. Dr. Kim nodded, eyes fixed on his screen. She's asking about the differences between platonic and romantic touch today. I'm not sure how to explain it without cultural context she doesn't have. The translation system they used had been upgraded twice already to handle the nuanced discussions. Engineers had added new light pattern algorithms specifically to convey human tactile concepts to the Solari. Today's message from Nera glowed on his screen. In our last exchange, you mentioned that humans touch differently based on relationship category. I find this fascinating. Solari like sharing varies in intensity and pattern, but not in fundamental nature. We have no equivalent to your kiss versus handshake distinction. Can you explain how you determine which type of touch is appropriate? Is there a decision tree you follow? Dr. Kim smiled at the technical approach. Nera often tried to understand human behavior as a set of logical rules. How do you even begin to explain something we learned through years of social conditioning? Hannah asked, reading over his shoulder. Carefully, Dr. Kim replied, starting to type his response. Dear Nera, touch appropriateness is largely learned through social cues rather than explicit rules. From infancy, humans observe others and receive feedback on their touching behavior. We learn that a handshake is for formal greetings, a hug for closer relationships, and more intimate touches are reserved for romantic partners or very close family. Context matters greatly too. A touch on the shoulder from a colleague might be acceptable in congratulation, but uncomfortable in other situations. Some humans prefer less touch overall. What we call personal space varies between individuals and cultures. Dr. Kim paused, then added, I've attached some simple diagrams from human anthropology texts showing touch comfort zones across different cultures. The red areas indicate where touching is generally reserved for intimate partners, yellow for close friends, and green for casual acquaintances. He sent the message, then turned to Hannah. It's like explaining water to someone who's only known air, he said, but Nera's questions show remarkable insight. The research committee is impressed, Hannah replied. They're talking about presenting your exchanges at the Interspecies Communication Conference next month. Before Dr. Kim could respond, a new message arrived, faster than usual. Nera must have been waiting. Your diagrams are illuminating. We have something similar for light intensity preferences. Some questions. Why do human children require more touch than adults? You mentioned studies where baby monkeys chose soft surrogate mothers over food sources. Do human children make similar choices? And is it true that elderly humans often suffer from touch deprivation? Dr. Kim rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Nara had clearly been doing her own research on human touch behaviors. She's not just asking questions, she's making connections, he murmured. His reply explained how human infants develop secure attachment through touch, how touch releases oxytocin and reduces stress hormones, and how many Earth cultures unfortunately neglect the tactile needs of their elderly. Later that afternoon, Dr. Kim was reviewing data when Hannah rushed in. "You need to see this. Nara shared your exchanges on their scientific network. It's causing quite a stir among the Solari." She displayed a translation of a Solari newsfeed on her tablet. The headline read, "Revolutionary Human Solari Exchange Changes, Understanding of Biological Imperatives." The article explained that Nara's research was challenging Solari assumptions about the universality of sensory experience. Several prominent Solari scientists had requested to join the conversation. "This goes beyond cultural exchange," Hannah said excitedly. "This could rewrite xenobiology textbooks." That evening, Dr. Kim received the most surprising message yet. "Esteemed Dr. Kim, the Light Council, our governing body, has taken interest in our discussions. They propose a formal research partnership between our species focused on sensory communication. I have been named lead researcher. Additionally, we have been developing technology that might allow me to experience a simulation of touch through light pattern translations on my surface. Would you be willing to help test this system? Understanding touch seems impossible without some approximation of the experience." Dr. Kim read the message twice, stunned by its implications. "They want to simulate touch for a species that has never experienced it," he whispered. "This could change everything we know about interspecies communication." He typed his reply with care. "Nara, I would be honored to participate in this research. The possibility of translating human tactile experience into something meaningful for Solari is extraordinary. Perhaps we could also explore the reverse, translating your light resonance experience into something humans could understand." As he sent the message, Dr. Kim felt a familiar thrill of discovery. What had begun as a simple Reddit post was evolving into something that might fundamentally change relations between their species. "From confusion to understanding," he murmured, one question at a time. Outside his viewport, stars glittered like distant crystals. Somewhere among them, a being made of light and crystal was redefining what it meant to reach across the divide between fundamentally different forms of life. The trouble began with a simple notification. Dr. Kim was reviewing his notes on Solari light language when his communication panel lit up with an urgent message from the station director. "My office, now," was all it said. When Dr. Kim arrived, Director Joe was standing with her arms crossed, looking at a large screen filled with headlines from across the galactic news networks. None of them looked good. "Humans attempt to corrupt crystalline species with touch obsession." Director Joe read aloud. "Interspecies scandal, the touch experiments that went too far. Care to explain what's happening, Dr. Kim?" Dr. Kim stared at the headlines in confusion. "These are about my research with Nora." "That's ridiculous. We're conducting legitimate scientific exchange." "The Moravian Collective doesn't see it that way," Director Joe said, bringing up another screen. "They filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Council, claiming humans are attempting to impose their physical obsessions on other species. The Moravians were a gas-based species that reproduced through atmospheric merging. They were known for their conservative views on interspecies relations." "That's absurd," Dr. Kim protested. "Nara approached me with questions about human tactile communication. Everything has been purely academic." "I believe you," Director Joe said, "but the original title of that galactic Reddit post isn't helping matters. Can you satisfy me first? 'No one has ever touched me' sounds problematic when taken out of context." Dr. Kim rubbed his temples. It was an innocent translation error. Nara's light language doesn't have the same connotations. His communication device chimed with an incoming message from Nara. "Dr. Kim, are you aware of the situation? My Light Council is receiving formal protests from 17 different species. They're threatening to cut diplomatic ties with both humans and Solari." Before he could respond, another alert sounded, this one from the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. "This is becoming a diplomatic incident," Director Joe said grimly. "You need to fix this, and quickly." Dr. Kim spent the next 6 hours in emergency meetings with human diplomatic staff. The controversy had spread faster than anyone anticipated. The original Reddit thread had been copied and shared across thousands of networks, often without the important scientific context. Species with very different communication patterns and biological imperatives were interpreting the exchange through their own cultural lenses. The Vospi, who reproduced by budding, were particularly offended by discussions of physical contact between different species. "We need to make a clear statement," the human ambassador insisted. "Dr. Kim, prepare a summary of your research that emphasizes its scientific nature." Just as they were drafting their response, a new message arrived. A public statement from the Solari Light Council, with Nera listed as the author. The recent discussions between Solari researcher Nera and human scientist Dr. Kim have been grossly mischaracterized. As a species that communicates through light, we sought understanding of tactile communication in the same way we might study any biological function. The title of the original inquiry suffered from translation limitations and was never intended to carry inappropriate connotations. Those who suggest impropriety reveal more about their own cultural biases than about the actual scientific exchange. The Solari Light Council stands firmly behind this research and rejects all accusations against our human colleagues. "Well, that helps," Director Joe said, looking slightly relieved. Dr. Kim's device lit up with a private message from Nera. The title was meant to be academic. "I never anticipated how different species would interpret it through their own cultural lenses." He quickly replied, "Thank you for your support. I think we need to address this directly. Would you be willing to join me in a live broadcast to explain our research?" "Yes," came the immediate response. "The Light Council agrees this is the best approach." The broadcast was scheduled for the following day. Dr. Kim spent the night preparing slides that clearly illustrated the scientific nature of their exchanges. He carefully selected excerpts that showed the depth and seriousness of their discussions. When the time came, Dr. Kim sat before the broadcast equipment while a special light interface displayed Nera's crystalline form as she spoke from her habitat. "Greetings to all species of the galactic community," Dr. Kim began. "We are here to address misconceptions about our research." Nera's form glimmered as she spoke, her words translated into multiple languages. Our exchange began with a simple question. How do different species experience connection? For humans, touch is essential. For Solari, it is light resonance. Understanding these differences expands our knowledge of sentient experience. They proceeded to explain the fundamental differences in their biology and the challenges of translation between such different life forms. "The controversy stems from cultural misunderstanding," Dr. Kim explained. "What appears inappropriate to some species is simply direct scientific inquiry to others." As they spoke, the viewer count climbed into the millions. Representatives from dozens of species joined to ask questions. The Moravian representative remained skeptical, but acknowledged that perhaps they had reacted hastily to incomplete information. After 2 hours, the broadcast ended. Dr. Kim slumped in his chair, exhausted but relieved. "That went better than expected," Director Joe said. "The Galactic Council has withdrawn the formal complaint." Later that evening, Dr. Kim received a message from Nera. "This misunderstanding, while uncomfortable, has actually brought more attention to our research than we could have hoped for. Sometimes the path to understanding requires navigating through confusion first." Dr. Kim smiled as he read her words. Even a diplomatic crisis couldn't dim Nera's scientific curiosity. "Perhaps," he wrote back, "this incident will help other species examine their own assumptions about communication. After all, isn't that what science is about?" The Galactic Science Council chamber was silent as Dr. Kim finished his presentation. The circular room, designed to accommodate representatives from 23 different species, had never felt so still. In conclusion, Dr. Kim said, "Nara and I propose developing an interface that translates human tactile sensations into Solari light patterns, and vice versa. This could revolutionize cross-species understanding, beginning with our two peoples but potentially expanding to others." He gestured to the holographic display where Nara's crystalline form glimmered. "The recent misunderstanding demonstrated how easily we misinterpret each other," Nara's translated voice stated. "This technology could bridge gaps that words alone cannot cross." The Vormidian representative, a tentacled being floating in a special tank, was the first to respond. "The cost estimate for this project is substantial. What guarantee can you provide that it will succeed?" "None," Dr. Kim answered honestly. "We are attempting something never before tried. But the potential benefits are equally substantial." The council deliberated for 3 hours while Dr. Kim waited nervously in an anteroom. Hannah stayed connected via comlink from the research station. "How does it look?" she asked. "Hard to say. The Moravians are still opposed, but several other species seem intrigued." Finally, the council summoned him back. The chairperson, an ancient Tellurian with mottled skin, addressed him directly. "The Galactic Science Council approves your project with full funding," she announced. "Your research has already sparked important conversations across our member species. This technology, if successful, could prevent future misunderstandings and perhaps open new diplomatic channels." Dr. Kim bowed deeply. "Thank you. We will begin work immediately." The following months were a blur of activity. The research station expanded to accommodate a specialized laboratory. Engineers and scientists from 6 different species joined the project, each bringing unique perspectives. The core technology combined tactile sensors with advanced light pattern generators. Dr. Kim worked closely with the human team developing the touch-to-light conversion protocols, while Nara led the Solari scientists creating the light-to-neural sensation interface. "The challenge," Dr. Kim explained during a team meeting, "is that we're not just translating language. We're translating fundamentally different sensory experiences." An early prototype failed spectacularly when it converted a gentle handshake into light patterns so intense they temporarily overloaded Nara's sensory system. "Too much," Nara had messaged afterward. "Imagine if someone shouted a greeting directly into your ear." They refined the system, creating more nuanced translations. By the 4th month, they had developed a handheld device that could record tactile sensations and convert them into calibrated light patterns. The reverse process was more complex. How could a human experience light resonance? The solution came from an unexpected source, a Jovian neurologist who suggested using fine electromagnetic fields to stimulate similar neural pathways. 6 months into the project, they were ready for the first full test. The Galactic Science Council sent observers, and news networks requested permission to broadcast the event. Dr. Kim sat nervously in the testing chamber. A black glove covered his right hand, its surface embedded with thousands of microscopic sensors. Across the room, separated by a transparent barrier designed to protect her crystalline form, Nara floated in her specialized environment. A delicate array of light emitters surrounded her. "Are you ready?" Dr. Kim asked. "I have been preparing for this moment since our first conversation," Nara replied, her form glowing slightly brighter with what Dr. Kim had come to recognize as excitement. Dr. Kim placed his gloved hand on a simple object, a small sphere of polished wood. "I'm touching something now," he said. "The system is recording the tactile sensation, pressure, texture, temperature." The data flowed through complex algorithms, translating touch into precise patterns of light that played across Nara's surface. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then Nara's entire form flickered in a pattern Dr. Kim had never seen before. "This is..." Nara's light patterns pulsed with new frequencies. "I had no concept. Your species experiences this constantly." Dr. Kim couldn't help smiling. "What are you experiencing?" "It's difficult to translate. There is boundary awareness. A sense of where something else begins, and variations in. I don't have words for this. It's not like light at all, yet somehow I understand it. They proceeded through a series of tests. Different textures, temperatures, pressures, each produced unique reactions from Nara. When Dr. Kim ran his fingers over a piece of silk, Nara's light patterns became so complex the translation system struggled to keep up. The smoothness contains subtle variations, Nara explained. It's like discovering colors I never knew existed. Then came Nara's turn to share. The electromagnetic field generator created subtle sensations across Dr. Kim's skin as Nara performed what she called a simple greeting resonance. Dr. Kim gasped. It felt like gentle waves washing over him, each carrying different emotions: curiosity, respect, scientific excitement. "This is how you communicate?" he asked in wonder. "A basic form, yes. More complex resonances can convey entire concepts at once." When the testing ended, the observing scientists broke into their species' equivalent of applause. The Galactic Council representatives immediately began discussing applications beyond human and Solari communication. Later, in a private message, Nara wrote to Dr. Kim, "Today we did more than test technology. We experience each other's reality. No translation can be perfect, but for the first time, I feel I truly understand what it means to be human." Dr. Kim replied, "And I, what it means to be Solari. This is just the beginning." Dr. Kim adjusted his formal attire nervously as he waited in the grand antechamber of the Galactic Museum of Communication. Through the tall windows, he could see the 3 moons of Centralia, the neutral planet chosen as headquarters for the Galactic Council centuries ago. "You look worried," said Hana, now his research partner rather than assistant. "This is a celebration, not an examination." "I know," Dr. Kim replied. "It's just hard to believe we came this far from a single galactic Reddit post." 2 years had passed since the first successful test of their sensory translation technology. What began as a way to help humans and Solari understand each other had expanded far beyond their initial vision. The Merovians, once their most vocal critics, had become enthusiastic supporters after the technology was adapted to translate their atmospheric vibrations into forms other species could comprehend. The Vormidians used it to share their complex chemical communications. Even the reclusive drift collectives, beings of pure energy, had recently joined the project. A soft chime indicated it was almost time for the ceremony to begin. Dr. Kim looked up as the special environmental chamber carrying Nara floated into the room. Her crystalline form had a formal arrangement today, with carefully positioned facets that would catch and reflect light in patterns recognizable as formal attire to other Solari. "Nara," Dr. Kim greeted her, placing a hand on the communication panel attached to her chamber. The panel glowed in response to his touch, translating the greeting into light patterns. "Dr. Kim," she responded, her form shifting in ways that sent waves of friendly recognition through the panel to his skin. "Today marks an important milestone." They entered the grand hall together. Representatives from 37 species filled the space, each in their own appropriate environmental accommodations. At the center stood the newly created Sensory Archive, a technological marvel that could record and reproduce sensory experiences from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council chairperson, a new Tellurian who had replaced the one who first approved their project, called for attention. "Today we gather to honor a breakthrough in galactic communication," the chairperson announced. 2 years ago, Dr. Kim and researcher Nara proposed a technology that seemed almost impossible, a way to translate touch into light, chemical signals into vibration, atmospheric changes into neural impulses. They sought to help us not just exchange words, but to share experiences across biological boundaries. The chairperson gestured to a display where the original galactic Reddit post was preserved. "Can you satisfy me first? No one has ever touched me. Alien woman's confession." This simple question, the chairperson continued, nearly caused a diplomatic incident due to translation errors and cultural misunderstandings. Now, it stands as the first exhibit in our Museum of Communication, reminding us how far we have come. Dr. Kim and Nara were invited forward. A small floating robot approached, carrying a crystal case containing the Galactic Understanding Prize, the highest honor for advancement in interspecies relations. For their revolutionary contribution to cross-species understanding, the chairperson announced, the Council presents Dr. Kim and researcher Nara with the Galactic Understanding Prize. Applause, clicks, light flashes, and various other species-specific expressions of approval filled the hall. The prize was placed on a pedestal between them. We are also pleased to announce that the Sensory Translation Network will be expanded to all member worlds in the coming year. The chairperson added, already, diplomatic misunderstandings have decreased by 63% among worlds using the technology. Dr. Kim stepped forward to address the gathering. The universal translator ensured his words would be understood by all present, but he wore the sensory band on his wrist that would also share his emotional context. Thank you for this honor, he began. When Nara first posted her question about human touch, neither of us imagined where it would lead. We were simply curious about each other's experience of the world. He gestured to Nara, who pulsed in acknowledging patterns. This technology doesn't just translate sensations, Dr. Kim continued. It translates perspective. For the first time, species can share not just what they think, but how they experience reality. A Moravian can understand why visual art moves a human. A human can appreciate the atmospheric poetry of a gas-based life form. Nara's translation system converted her light patterns to speech. We have learned that understanding requires more than facts. It requires experience. No Solari could truly comprehend touch through description alone. No human could grasp light resonance without feeling it. True connection happens when we step into each other's sensory world. As she spoke, the great sensory archive activated, projecting carefully calibrated signals that gave each species present a taste of how others experienced the ceremony. The bright satisfaction of the Solari, the flowing contentment of the Moravians, the steady joy of humans. Dr. Kim looked out at the gathered representatives. Scientists, diplomats, artists from across the galaxy were now using their technology to create new forms of cross-species art, to negotiate more nuanced treaties, to collaborate on research in ways previously impossible. Sometimes the greatest connections, Dr. Kim said at the ceremony, begin with a simple, curious question. After the ceremony, Dr. Kim stood with Nara in the new museum wing, looking at their original conversation preserved for future generations. Did you ever think, he asked her through the translator, that your Reddit post would end up in a museum? Nara's form shimmered with what he now recognized as amusement. Never. I was simply confused by humans always touching each other. And I never imagined I would understand light resonance. Dr. Kim replied. But here we are. A group of young students from various species entered the exhibit, their teachers explaining the historical significance of the Sensory Translation Network. Here we are indeed, Nara agreed. And there they go, the next generation who will never know a galaxy where species couldn't share their experiences. As they watched the students engage with the interactive exhibits, trying different sensory experiences from across the galaxy, Dr. Kim felt a deep satisfaction. What had begun with confusion had ended with connection, not just between two researchers, but between all the diverse forms of life that called the galaxy home.